in the woodshed with Night Danger, I had some interesting discussions on magic in fantasy worlds when, yesterday, I posted on the internet, most fantasy magic systems suck because they exist parallel to, not downstream from, religion. Now, there was a lot of different things that came out of discussions around this post that I would like to explore further, but today, specifically, I want to talk about Clarke's third law. A number of people brought forth that old chestnut. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I have two responses to this. The first is short, and the second is not short. So we'll do the short one first. It does not logically follow that the inverse of the third law is true. Which is to say, to somebody who already believes in magic, sufficiently advanced technology could be perceived as magic. Like, I think that's obviously true. The example being going back in time and showing your iPhone to a 4th century peasant, sure. But the opposite isn't necessarily the case when dealing with the worlds of speculative fiction. In a world where wizards really do see over vast distances through crystal balls powered by demon blood, it does not follow that this is simply some kind of advanced form of science following natural laws. In a world where the laws of nature can be broken or violated by magic, it is not a obvious conclusion that magic is simply advanced technology within the boundaries of this world. You tracking here? If I go back in time and I show my phone to a peasant and he goes, yes, this is clearly a magical artifact, he's wrong because it's not a magical artifact, it's just an electronic device. But if he then goes down to the local oracle and the oracle contacts God, and God tells the oracle to explain to the peasant that my phone is just a piece of technology, what the oracle's doing isn't tech. What the oracle is doing is magic. And it is different. And this is kind of the foundation of my view that magic is indistinguishable or integrated and interwoven with the religion of the people practicing the magic, is because if you can practice magic at all, if you can violate the laws of nature, if you can break the rules with magic, there's no version of reality where that doesn't turn into or become a part of the religion of the people. Additionally, the religion of the people will inform what they try to do with the magic. And so that's the kind of the short rebuttal of Clarke's third law. But more interestingly, I want to talk about all three of Clarke's laws. Not just the third one, which is often quoted in isolation, but is really kind of a conclusion or a final turn that builds on the previous two laws. So we're going to go law by law and unlock the, I think, deeply magical worldview of Arthur C. Clarke. And yeah, so you'll have to forgive me. I don't smoke as often as I used to, and I don't have any little lighters anymore, so I have this big honking thing, because it turns out lighters don't just materialize into your house. You have to buy them. Okay, first law. When a distinguished but elderly scientist states that something is possible, he is almost certainly right. When he states that something is impossible, he is very probably wrong. This, what is this saying? What is it saying about science? What is it saying about like the progression of technology? It is saying that once we've figured out how to do something, or once we've figured out that something works, that is generally not going to change. Not always. He says almost certainly. He does hedge his bets a little bit. But generally speaking, once you figure out that water flows downhill, it's pretty much always going to be true that water flows downhill. But this is followed up by a fun little inversion, which is that if this same institution of science, which the old scientist is a stand-in for the institution of science, simply believing that something is impossible right now is unlikely to bear out, because technology will continue to advance and things that we once thought were impossible will become possible. Now, this is obviously a very optimistic view of technology, namely that, frankly, that anything is possible. That absolutely anything you can dream of can eventually be done by technology. We'll just keep moving forward. This is obviously a utopian view. It is obviously a view of infinite progress, but also it is magical. It is a magical view. It is a belief in fairies. The fairies being faster than light travel, abiogenesis, time travel, perfect cloning or particle transmission of a person from here to Mars by radio waves. Like, these are magical ideas, and what I mean by that is that like, they really, in fact, are, a lot of them, probably impossible. I say probably because I'm open to being wrong, but the point being is that what Clarke here is saying is that science produces a grounding of beliefs of what we know to be true that generally doesn't change, but also that with enough time and effort and study, what we believe to be possible will eventually include everything. And for one, the fact that he puts it in the hand of a priest, I think also tethers this as a magical and a religious worldview, in that it is tethered to the figure of the priest, the dispenser of doctrine. And of course, you can draw a fun parallel between an old priest and a young priest, and this old scientist and a young scientist, where the old scientist says, "Oh, this is impossible," and he's probably wrong. As a religious person, sometimes you encounter old priests who they believe things about how we should approach life in the modern world, and it can seem out of touch, or it can seem like they didn't anticipate the changes of our society, or they didn't anticipate the state of things. And so you kind of, in this quote, I think you get both the priestly role of preserving and dispensing of doctrine, but also the priestly role of needing to eventually be replaced by new people with new approaches and new ideas. That kind of motion. It's simultaneously a conservative and a progressive view of the development of doctrine, the development of truth, and the development of belief, which is that once a belief has been developed, it is unlikely to change, but there is always room for new beliefs to be developed. Second law, the only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture a little way past them into the impossible. Once again, we are thinking magically. We are shooting for the stars and landing on the moon, which is to say, by under this paradigm, it is only possible for scientists to uncover scientific truth by believing in magic. So, by believing in the impossible, in that which cannot be, and so you need a scientist. If I was to use a modern or a pertinent, valuable thing, um, to uncover the full potential of what an AI could do, what computers are capable of, to really push to the very limits of what we can do with a computer, you need your computer scientists to be trying to do the impossible with the computer. You need your scientists, your computer scientists, to have a magical view of a magical and a religious view of what a computer is capable of, so that they'll push towards that ideal and eventually make their way backwards to the well, rather, not make their way backwards, but they'll shoot past here, and behind them will be the full limits of what is possible with a computer. So, like, AI will never attain consciousness as we experience it as humans. I'm sorry. Searle is right about this. Dreyfus is right about this. But the possibilities of what these machines can do is still incredible and absolutely should be pushed to the limits. And the only way that we're going to push towards that limit, in Clarke's view, is if our scientists ignore the fact that Dreyfus is right and ignore the fact that Searle was right and keep trying anyway to do impossible things. They'll keep trying to turn lead into gold, and in the process uncover a whole bunch of useful information. Yeah, dead. And so I stop. But I feel like I'm going crazy here. Do you see the underlying religion that is necessary for scientific progress under Arthur C. Clarke's vision? He has provided us with a framework of viewing science and of viewing the future, of, like, what do we think the future will be like, that is utopian, that is optimistic, that is religious. In the kingdom to come, in that sweet by and by of the future, we'll be able to telephone ourselves to Mars and have lunch on food that we generate from particles in a big box. Like the Star Trek future is just possible. We just need to keep going. And it is from this worldview, this framing, that we have finally arrived at the third law. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. It is, I think, incorrectly asserted that what Clarke is saying here is that advanced technology is what magic actually is, which is to say that magic's not real, it's all just advanced technology. I don't think that's what he's doing. I think that because he's talking about writing speculative visions of the future, he's not saying that magic is actually technology. He's saying that in the context of imagining speculative futures, technology is actually magic. Because we are envisioning the impossible. We are venturing a little way past into the impossible so that we can uncover what is possible. And so when he writes his fiction, he's not using technology as a smokescreen for magic. He's not just like explaining away magic with technology. Instead, he is explaining away technology with magic. Magic is the first principle, not the second. If the primary aim of science is to make the impossible possible, science is an act of magic. And experimental science, trial and error, and uncovering the mysteries of the universe is the process of wizards. They don't have to call themselves that, but, and in real life that's not necessarily what they're doing, but in the science fiction worlds of Arthur C. Clarke, that is what they are doing. The scientists are wizards who do the impossible and then comfort you by explaining it as technology, or make you believe that it might be possible by using technological jargon so that you will believe in impossible technology and strive for it, and in the process reach the final limits of possible technology. I think I kind of have exhausted my point here. Initially, as I was thinking about this, I saw Clarke's Law show up a couple times, and I got frustrated because I've seen that law misused a number of times. But I'm often struck by another science fiction example. In Neuromancer, the best science fiction novel ever written, the Turing cops, when they're interrogating him rather, they accuse him of selling out his species, that the wizards of old tried to make pacts with demons, but only now is this actually possible. And they're talking about this AI, this conscious, self-learning intelligence. Now, a conscious self-learning intelligence like that, again, back to Dreyfus, is impossible. It is magical. When the Turing cop says, only now is this possible, he's not saying that this AI is like a demon that you can make a pact with. He's saying that it is. Or rather, Gibson is implying that through the text. In this imagined future, magic has become real. Magic has become possible. And through our process of technological exploration, we have uncovered violations of basic laws of nature, ways to break the rules, which is in contradiction to the first law, which says that once the rules are established, they don't generally change. But that's what's happening in science fiction. Science fiction is breaking the rules. So chew on that for a little bit. If you want to see the lines between science and magic and religion blur, as they inevitably do, I would argue that scientism is the religion of the modern English-speaking world. The scientists are de facto priests. They have sacred doctrines. They have inviolable dogmas. They have ritual. They have ceremony. And the average person who believes in them believes without understanding in things beyond their comprehension. But if you want to mull over more of the explorations of science, religion, and technology and magic all being kind of the same thing, blurring together, then I would encourage you to bully me into actually digging into, probably in writing, probably not in video, Lynn Thorndike's History of Experimental Magic, of Magic and Experimental Science, which I got about halfway through during my undergrad, and is a fascinating pile of work. And as RPG people, I think everyone's always trying to fix wizards. Everyone's always trying to fix magic users because there's something off. And so they try adding random tables, like in Dungeon Crawl Classics, or they try to add entire systems of, like, you have to build the spells from scratch, like in Ars Magica. Steve Jackson Games has a Kickstarter running right now for a massive, like, huge box set game about wizards doing wizard stuff. Like, there's definitely a desire for There's a desire for good wizardly role playing, and I think a lot of it is inhibited by a failure to understand what magic was to the people who really believed in it, to the people who practiced it and cared about it. Um, and understanding how magic fits into a medieval worldview is going to give you a better understanding of how to fit magic into your pseudo medieval fantasy setting. So, bully me into actually following through on a proposed project, and we will dig into wizard business maybe for the next year or so. This has been Night Danger in the Woods. I felt like I hadn't had anything to say about RPGs for a while, so I decided to stop filming videos. And I will probably continue, maybe later this week, I'll record, continue practice logs of practicing the guitar as a way of tracking my weight loss. Um, I'm down like I think 10 pounds since that last video was recorded, so it feels pretty good. We're getting there. Um, but yeah, wizards are on my brain and evidently on the brains of many others. So uh, contemplate this on the Tree of Woe.